Thanks, Aditya, for including me in this instructive course. So, so let's go ahead with macular telangiectasia. So, if you have seen the macular telangiectasia, though it's not the most common, hold on, yeah, the macular telangiectasia may not be the most common retinal disease which you encounter, but it's definitely the common thing which you keep seeing in a retina clinics. And it is not that severe when most of the time when you see these patients, you might come with the minimal problems, but then over a period of time they keep coming back, and you notice that it keeps progressing. And we have seen that it has been seen even in the families, and if you screen the people who are there in their families, you might even identify the early stages of macular telangiectasia to tell you that there is some genetic involvement in these type of cases. So at this point of time, we still are not able to treat them completely, and we can only uh, treat the complications like subretinal neovascular membranes which form in these patients. So is there anything which non-invasively we can look at these patients and say whether we can help in identifying the visual prognosis in these patients, or is there any progress which can be predicted how these patients will progress? Because the most common question which these patients ask is this an AMD, and how will uh, this progress? Am I going to go blind? So these are the two important things which we'll always keep worrying about. But what is the current knowledge which we have about this disease, at least in terms of an OCT and OCT angio, which would help us to give answers to these, is what I'm going to touch upon right today. So if you look at this image, this is what we see most commonly, and this is the earliest. It's not just the earliest stage of PFT. You see a pigmentation here, you see a graying here, and under OCT you see the hyperreflectivity and a loss of retinal tissue here. So though you look at the retina, it might appear like there is an edema, but then you see a thinning of the retina here. So this is an actual OCT pictures, how you varied it can present. It's the same patient with both eyes. You'll see you can have one eye where there is already a pigmentation, and then the other eye you will have an early stage where there is minimal graying. But if you look at the OCT, so the most typical feature is this cavitation which we see inside the retina, and which is seen in both, and the loss of the ellipsoid zone and the loss of retinal tissue and becoming thinning out. This is this is the close-up look and how they progress over a period of time. So these are the most important things which we notice and OCT. Though there is some amount of vitreomacular traction here, but that's not the one which is implicating causing a macular hole or anything in this. So this is mainly the tissue damage or an atrophy degeneration which is happening here. So that's why you see this, the whole area, that loss of tissue is noticed. And what you're seeing here is a pigment proliferation, what you're seeing here. So next thing what we notice in OCT is angiograph. So that's another area where we can actually look at what happens in these patients, because when you look at these patients, it's not just the tissue loss, but there are vascular changes which are happening there in those areas. So is there anything which we can identify in these places which we can give us an idea what happens in these patients? So this is a study by Spade where we actually they actually looked at what are the patterns of changes what we see in the retinal vasculature. So there are changes in at every level, the superficial level, intermediate, and the deeper levels, and even in cases where there is a vascularization, it happens inside the retina. It starts with. So these are the things which we notice And if you see here in OCT, there will be an early stages where there will be bulbs at the end, and sometimes there is a dragging of the vessels like this, and then have change of architecture completely. And you do see a vascular flow in the outer retinal vessels. These are the changes which you might see in a macular telangiectasia OCT angiogram. So, and this is another example where you are actually seeing vascular changes at the superficial level and deep level, but you still have a pigmentation already there. So there is a varied presentation even at the different levels of disease, how the vascular changes are presenting. So there may not be an exact correlation with the staging of disease with vascular changes per se. And OCT angio is definitely useful in identifying the neovascularization which starts in the retina. So this is how beautifully neovascularization is picked up in using an OCT angiogram, which is not, a fluorescein angiogram would not pick this up that easily, mainly because of there is surrounding leakage of dye which is seen in these areas, and it might mask the neovascularization, whereas OCT angio will pick up these things very easily. So let's go to what are the studies? Are there anything which has been done to identify the markers which can predict the progress, or which can predict the visual potential of these patients? So one of the widely studied and accepted thing for as a biomarker for visual prognosis in these patients is ellipsoid zone mapping. So this is a study which is first published in IOVS long back in 2018. So from Maxwell Group. So they claim that the ellipsoid zone loss is one of the most common predictors of visual acuity in case of macular telangiectasia, followed up by another study again in by a SPADE group, where we can actually see what's happening here. They actually mapped up the areas of ellipsoid zone loss and then try to correlate with the vascular changes using an OCT angiogram. Is there any way that that might help? Even in this, they ended up saying that the ellipsoid zone is still law mapping is the one which is going to predict what is going to be the visual prognosis for these patients, and this is the one which we might want to use in any of the future studies at this point of time, whether we can predict the progress of the disease. So at this point of time, red zone mapping is one which is which can help. So there's another study which is showed that the retinal cavitations which I was talking about, there is a loss of tissue inside, whether they can look at the areas of retinal cavitations like how you see here. So all these cavities are marked, and then coming up with the total area of retinal cavitation in that area in the macula, which can give us a prediction of how the correlation with the visual acuity is in these patients. So this study again has looked at correlation, but it's come out with, yeah, cavitation definitely gives us some amount of idea of what and how the disease progresses, but when compared to ellipsoid zone, the ellipsoid zone still fares better than cavitation per se. So I would keep it as a second biomarker for prognosis of disease in macular telangiectasia. So that's the next thing. So other than this, looking at vascular networks, so closer to home, Dr. Ketan has presented published one series on how the vascular network looks like, and then is there any way that we can predict based on the vascular network whether there is can be a prognosis can be predicted. So he has come up with division of type A and type B types of vascular networks, where The type A is where there is a lot of disorganization of the structures, and there is dragging of the foveal vascular zone and then encroaching on the foveal vascular zone. Whereas type B is where you only see vascular bulbs, and most of the
Doctor, so sorry to interrupt, but you need to sum up within a minute.
yeah, we done. Don't worry. So when they looked at it, the type A is the one which had shown a better prognosis, at least to a certain extent, with area of improvement in antibiotics in these patients. So that's another area where we can look at. In summary, I would say ellipsoid zone is still the best biomarker for macular telangiectasia. The vascular nets is still area where we need further studies to identify whether we can make a difference or not. So that's in short about, and most of the slides or images are given to me by Bhavik, Ketan, and Ravinash, and thanks for them. And thank you, Aditya.